shock, fear, anxiety, chaos, war. You can only imagine what happens, right? So unconsciously, save the world, save these situations. Hello, beautiful and amazing humans. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Mahdi podcast, Light in the Darkness. The series is Into the Deep. This is the first kind of intro episode. Wanted to introduce myself and let you guys, amazing humans, get to know me a little bit and the intentions of our podcast and our series and what we're going to be diving into. My name is Mahdi Richard Alouche. That's where you get the Mahdi from. It's just kind of second part of my first name. But when you're mixed Arab, 9, 10, 11 people in a family in a small town called Redwater, Northern Alberta, so you get Caucasian name and then an Arab name as well, just to kind of blend in. No, all jokes aside, my parents both grew up in Lebanon and Syria. We're very mixed. We've got a little bit of Greek, Cyprus, Turkish, and that whole region. If anyone's from the Middle East, if you do a DNA test, you'll quickly find that you're about 30, 40 countries, Jewish included, Israelite, that region, Lebanon, Palestine, Turkey, that whole entire region, 20, 30 countries, stuff like that. So at the end of the day, we all come essentially from the same place. My parents decided to give us nine children, God bless them, several names. I'm not sure exactly the intentions there. I think just being immigrants from the Middle East just made it a little bit easier. I think that they found over time, my dad being a professor and a teacher in Canada at multiple universities and my mom being a teacher and stuff like that, they just found it, I think, a little bit easier to make that happen. So that's why you see my name Richard Alouche, Mohammed Alouche, all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, a little bit about me. So I wouldn't be here today if my parents didn't escape the Civil War. Essentially, in the 1970s, there was just, even till this day, war, civil war, strife, conflict within that region, Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, Israel. There's a lot of chaos in the world. As you all know, my dad was, I guess, directed and pushed by his older brothers and just by his upbringing, not having a father in his life, pushed himself to study for 2, 3, 4 hours a day. He'd tell me stories where he would wear the same shirt for a week at a time. Him being the youngest, his brothers kind of set him straight, in a physical way, or their intentions were kind of just to keep him on that straight path, because at that time, you didn't have many options of being able to escape or to immigrate out, being in such a difficult state. One of the best ways was, education. Knowledge is power, of course, but also if you want to immigrate to somewhere, I think his idea was France or even Canada, stuff like that, America. Having an education for him, it was a master's degree, doctor's degree. And man, is his story powerful. When Civil War was breaking out, close friends of his, close people that he knew were involved in the war. As you see, unfortunately, some parts of the world, Ukraine and Russia, that kind of stuff, getting conscripted. His thing was he was a teacher and he had education, and he was on one of the last ships that were able to make it to leave, I believe, to France at the time. And somebody he knew in the military kind of pointed him out, several people, and if it wasn't for this moment in time, and he was like, oh, is that Mahmoud? Like, he's got an education. Like, let's get him on this ship out. So huge favor there. Unbelievable. So there's a huge history there for sure. Bled into our family as well, of course. My mother, my dad was kind of a little bit of the old school Tinder, a little bit of pen paling back and forth, letters and stuff like that years later, where he was introduced to her through basically his brother and his wife and stuff like that, and they kind of said, oh yeah, this would, she's a perfect person kind of for you, and they played old school Tinder and old school kind of pen pal, letters back and forth. So there's a cute story there too. And yeah, they were able to escape. The only reason my dad was able to make it to France and then later Canada, where they accepted him to become a teacher at McGill and in Quebec, was because of his education. I could not imagine what my parents went through, what my dad went through. Of course, that also created a lot of trauma within the household, within, not only just our ancestry, our bloodline, and our lineage, and within the household. Unconsciously, consciously, all those things, and we'll talk about that as we get into the series. But fast forward to my dad leaving Quebec because he got an opportunity at a university in Alberta. He wanted to live out of town, about 45 minutes. I think just the fear of the big city of Edmonton and other things like that, just the convenience. So it was a really, really awesome, little place called Redwater. 80% Ukrainian, some indigenous, not much for different races like Asian or Middle Eastern like mine and stuff like that, Indian, stuff like that. So definitely some history there that we're going to talk about. So here I come, being the 3 girls, 3 older sisters, and then my grandma lived with us as well, my best friend. There's nine kids. Yeah, that's a bit about me. Born in Redwater, I guess Edmonton, Redwater. Grew up there for my childhood. Now, as you get to know me, we'll talk about things like trauma. So, of course, the Civil War. My mom, she'd share stories of literally, talking to her friend one moment and literally hearing bombs flying over and chaos and screaming and fear and the list goes on. We can only imagine where, a few days later she finds out that a family friend or a cousin or somebody she knew was lost in the Civil War and within the chaos. And there's a lot of history there, a lot of disconnect of humanity and stuff like that where she's from. So yeah, in the Tripolian area, in that area, and of course till this day, of course, there's a lot of strife and chaos. We're going to talk about that. Now, I grew up in Redwater. It was really hard to get attention in the family, and I know our parents did our absolute best, but certainly a lot of accidental traumas there. You never asked somebody to come and just bomb where you lived and the country that you lived in. So there's a lot of trauma, of course, that's absorbed there, and shock, these cycles that we recreate, and we develop kind of these frozen states where we become frozen emotionally, or we're unable to understand our emotions. So then this trauma kind of, not only through my ancestry of always kind of being around chaos and war and the ability to fear and not feeling safe or peaceful, bled into the family, children needing love, needing attention, not being able to get that. And then, of course, the stressors of just everyday life. So was there just a household full of love, of course, full of love and full of just kindness. And our parents always guided us to choose to be, on a path, religion, spirit, all those things. Was it confusing at times? Yes, and we'll talk about that. So, yeah, there was, some physical, I don't want to say the word abuse, but let's not beat around the bush. There's definitely some physical abuse, lots of verbal abuse. And kind of course, me and my parents have an amazing relationship. I've done a lot of work in the last, 6-7 years, lots and lots of work, counseling. Got an amazing psychologist, counselor, spiritual guide, all that stuff. And I'm going to talk about that because I'm going to talk about how today I'm free through the work that I've done, and I want to be able to, one of the intentions is to share that with others, share my journey with others and stuff like that. So, back in the Middle East, as I said, my dad's brothers would set him straight. The intentions were good. And ironically, if they kind of didn't, the physical abuse, and he didn't have a father, so lo and behold, his older brothers one just lives in Syria, one was able to go to France. But ironically, even though my dad was physically abused, that cycle kind of continued itself down. The intention was to set him straight and to keep him studying and all those things. So ironically, on one side of that coin, here we are, and on the other, definitely a lot of trauma that bled into the family. So in that state of shock, fear, anxiety, chaos, war, you can only imagine what happens, right? So unconsciously imagine just heightened emotions hit, fear, and child looking back, I picture my dad kind of as the Hulk. He'd come home after a long day, very stressful day at work, and I'm the oldest boy, so there's just a lot of chaos at home that would just trigger it right away. And lo and behold, I'd be chased down and smacked a couple times, and at the time I tried to brush it under the rug for the most of my life. But at the end of the day, I just, it's not a big deal. Our needs are met, those kind of things. And that definitely haunted me later. So that's what we're going to talk about too. But essentially, we grew up, we made it. Great family, great siblings, all those things, which is awesome. My mom, she mastered the ability to emotionally freeze. When there's chaos, heightened emotions, just basically become frozen, a statue, and shut down. And she would find her, lose herself within spirituality, religion, scripture. My parents grew up as Muslims, and I think without knowing, they wanted to guide us on what they thought the right path was. So, accidentally indoctrinating some of us into this Muslim ideology. Now, luckily, we had a church across the street, and most of the town was, Catholic, Christian, stuff like that. So, piqued my curiosity. Our school was Christian, and even though we would kind of go to the mosque, go to church, I would start seeing all the similarities. And at the same time, I'd see some of the things, and in my mind, I would think, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, that's not love, or, so I wouldn't be able to really, I wasn't able to kind of really engage fully, but I would just, at a young age, choose to see the similarities. And I would connect the dots with, okay, what are all scriptures or religion saying? Does it align with love? Does this make sense? Can we align facts with it? And we'll talk about that too. So That's my upbringing. So yes, I was dealing with some, the want, the need, just like as any child would, the want and need for love, attention, all those things. Definitely some verbal, trauma, physical trauma. And for me, I don't blame my parents. I don't blame anyone, really. We're going to talk about going into the deep and what that means, really, as we continue this story. But I was able to do a lot of work to heal through this and to also recognize and appreciate those moments and to forgive so there's a lot of beauty there as well, to recognize and understand what my parents also went through. Yeah, so here I am. I'm 32 years old, grew up in Redwater. We moved to Edmonton. I always struggled with racism a lot in Redwater, of course, the color of my skin, my name, the big family, all that kind of stuff. So that added another layer of trauma, wanting to fit in. And then, of course, moving to an area called Troublemaker, Riverbend. So it's a more prominent area. So that was a huge jump from all of us sleeping on the floor, sharing bedroom, to, not growing up wealthy, of course, and of course still not. My dad likes to, it was an appearance of being wealthy, but it was great. He tried his best. They did their best, but we were definitely always struggling financially. So that was another layer of always fear of money and finances and stuff like that. So kind of fast forward a bit, I tried to go to school. I tried to do school, everything in my power. And I had a hard time, just believing in what we were learning. I was always kind of like a conspiracy-minded human in the sense of, okay, was this actually true in history? Is this accurate? Was I there? So a lot of critical thinking, a lot of challenging my teachers. I'd get bored, stuff like that. So it was hard to engage. I definitely appreciate, the old school kind of ancient Greek type of philosophy way of thinking, where it was, just specialize in what your heart, your passions, all those kind of things, Montessori type of style. So anyways, I was definitely a bit of a troublemaker, looking for attention, class clown, skipping classes, finding trouble, trying to find, that role model that, in my opinion, at the time, my dad wasn't. He was the dad, he was providing the needs, but he wasn't the best friend. So I'd find trouble. I'd latch myself onto just the older, brother type, sibling type, lots of suspensions, getting expelled, lots of silly situations, moments, things that I had to do to learn. That's what we're here for in this world. So definitely made some mistakes along the way in my life. And, then I finally get the age of 18, 19. I just couldn't do high school. I tried. I couldn't do it. So now let's get to the reason why we're here, why, I established Something for Humanity, which is a non-for-profit organization that helps with, essentially the goal is just creating love, spreading love, and to tackle head-on like homelessness, mental health within our community, within other communities, and to do stuff like this, just to talk and to spread love and to guide people, hopefully to inspire what we can control, which is, into the deep, which is light into the darkness, which is the whole basis of the series. What can we control? We can control everything inside, right? Here I am. I meet a friend and I want to move out. I've moved in and out of the house 16, 17, 18, just couldn't get along with my parents. And I meet, really good friend, Dan, at the time. We moved to Sherwood Park. Just a fun time, young kids, wild and crazy, working. I was always working since I was 13. I loved to work. That kept me busy, kept me stimulated. I liked making money, of course. I always felt like a businessman. What can I do to become, a business person, have control, have power, all that kind of stuff as I was young. Now, long story short, I'm working at Eastside Mares. It's a restaurant at the time in Sherwood Park. It was really great. I was able to build up some social skills. At one point, I'd got to a table, I was shaking and stuttering, and the one thing that I always inspired me and motivated me and still does was the want to serve others. So that was really beautiful. But in that shyness, in that being anxious and timid, I was able to really listen to the people I was serving and get advice, and that's kind of how I've been keeping a open heart, open mind, open ears along the way. And so I'd get advice like, okay, you have to put your posture like this, talk like this, say that, and stuff like that. So I'd get advice, different mannerisms and along the way. And so that was great. Basically, Eastside Mares ended up going bankrupt. At that point, I gained a lot of confidence, some skills, that fast-paced environment and stuff like that, managing tables, managing customer service, ensuring happiness, the want to serve. And my friend Dan, he was not happy at where he was working at a cell phone store. And he said, hey, you know what? Let's go sell cars. One of my friends makes like 10 grand a month. Like that would be amazing. Let's do it. So I was like, you're crazy. This is crazy, but sure, whatever. We have nothing to lose. So let's go do it. We went to a dealership, Mitsubishi, and we go in little punks and we have these dress shirts on, but not dress pants. And they say, you know what, you guys have a lot of charisma. That's awesome. But A, like you're young, you have no experience. B, like the next interview you go get dress pants. I kid you not. We go to, I think Winners, we buy $10 dress pants. We go to Nissan. They had this huge summer sale coming up where they were so busy and they admired our charisma and stuff like that. Ironically, they wanted to hire me, not him. We were a 2-package deal. And so it was interesting. For a few weeks, we went ahead and started. And for a few weeks, I didn't do anything. He actually sold a vehicle or two, and I didn't do anything. And I was giving up at the time. The oil industry was booming. It's something never in a million years I'd ever want to do. Fort McMurray, but I thought to myself, you know what? I need to make money. I can't finish high school. I tried, but I'm going to try that. And he said, you know what? No, I believe in you. I was doing all this training, listening to, say this, do that by, for example, a guy named Joe Verdi teaching on how to sell. So it was very robotic when I'd meet my customers. At this point, the manager that believed in me helped me believe in myself. Now I'll never forget this day. At that time I met a customer. This was my first sale. I just decided, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to be myself. Have fun, be myself. We got to know each other, and we just had an amazing time. It was muddy out, it was raining, I fell in the mud. We went and got this perfect truck, from the off lot, the compound, and it was just such a fun time. And I got my first sale. I was like, oh my God, that's what I was missing the whole time. I have to just be myself. That changed everything. I then developed, the knowledge, product knowledge, all that kind of stuff. And over time, it just continued to build my confidence that I once upon a time never had, and continued to struggle with throughout my adulthood, of who myself is. Who is myself? But that's what people loved, when I could be myself in that sales realm, truly come from a place of service and really connect, the human connection, which is when people's hearts connect and the intentions are so pure. And that what made me one of the best top salespeople at Nissan at the time. Within this time period, my sister and I planned on visiting Lebanon. We wanted to just see, my parents would tell us stories all the time, when I grew up, where I grew up. And another fact of this was, we always had the news in the background. We always had the news blaring, and my dad always, hyper-focused on the news and the chaos and the war, and that was part of the upbringing. So there was lots and lots and lots of layers there. And so as I did the work, I was able to kind of, in hindsight, go and see what was going on. It's like, oh, wow, once we are traumatized, we stay there. It's really hard to get out of that. And that's the world that they knew. So as an adult, I can see that now. And we're going to get to know each other, throughout the series and stuff like that too, and how I was able to free myself from a lot of these layers, and also this inherited layers and such. So I'm working at Nissan. I kid you not, I make $40-something thousand in 2.5 months at the age of 18. You could only imagine, right? Partying, I want to get a place, live like a rock star. It was something else. It was wild, a little bit getting my ego a little bit up there. I can walk on water mentality. I'm so good at what I do. Unfortunately, it happens to the best of us. My sister and I were planning a trip to Lebanon for a long time, so I had told them about it as well. And we were planning on going for 3 months, but we ended up going. We were going to stay in Tripoli with my dad's sister, and we get there, and I've never been anywhere. I've never been anywhere in the world. This was the first time I've ever gone out of Canada. So you could only imagine. I was 18, yeah. So, and my sister was 16. So it was pretty, I wasn't looking, I didn't know what to expect, right? I knew I was going to see a lot of stuff. And so here I am, I grew up in the western part of the world my entire life. Redwater, in my opinion, a little bit definitely spoiled for sure, in the sense of, regardless of if you want to label yourself, rich or poor or whatever, at the end of the day, after this experience, you got food, shelter, and clothing, in my opinion, that's a little bit of spoiled compared to the way some people live in the rest of the world. So we go there, we last a month and a half, because of many reasons, right? It's a whole different world. A beautiful country, don't get me wrong, but lots of division, lots of different religious groups, political groups, geopolitical, and just so much, in my opinion, just disconnect of humanity. Essentially, in one part of the city, you have, again, of course, people who are extremely well off, and another people that are mediocre, and then in the rest you have just a complete, unbelievable, just heartbreaking situation. A little bit out of the city, you have refugee camps. We're talking about little kids playing soccer without shoes, with smiles from ear to ear, and people living in little tents, just from, of course, all the chaos in that region. In the poor areas, you got, little rivers, and you can see in the rivers there's just piles and piles, mountains of garbage, and just immense poverty, little kids running around begging for food and for money and stuff like that. And just, it was a different world. At the age of 18, could not comprehend the stories our parents told us. You could see pictures, you can see it on the news, but this was wild. This was different. I did not realize how unbelievably spoiled we were and we are in the West in comparison to some places in the world. And so this was a huge eye-opener. We had a great time. We met lots of family, and it was good overall, but it was just an eye-opening experience. So I go back, and I try to get back into work, car sales, making all this money on all that stuff, but something was eating me alive. I started just to feel a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, a lot of these really, really terrible feelings and emotions started to eat away at me, and I got depressed. I couldn't work anymore, and I just kind of, I think, settled in my parents' basement, and I just sat in depression, lost myself in video games. It was very difficult. I didn't really feel like alive, feel like I didn't have anything. Selling cars wasn't going to cut it. There's definitely a lot more to my history. I got into some, not the proud moments, but these are experiences that definitely increased my compassion, my empathy, my ability to forgive, the ability to love, because I can comprehend how fast we can get, moved from one path to another. Got involved with some group of people that were dealing drugs, and that scared the, shit out of me, literally. Basically, I ran away from that as fast as I could. Thought it was just, I got into that path, and right away after 3-4 months, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I can't believe this. The darkness took over. And we're going to talk about that. And that whole world was, filled with just darkness, and I can see how we can get there too. We can, easily get there when we're consumed by darkness and these feelings and emotions. And thank God something stopped me. And even people that I was connected with, there was murders, jail, prison, all that kind of stuff. So something saved me, something stopped me. And I, at that moment when I ran away, I said, I need to get out of here. I had a friend who lived in Victoria, BC, far away from it all. And I thought I was done with car sales and that whole world. I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to do whatever it takes to get back into school. So in BC, you're able to kind of upgrade for free as an adult. You just pay kind of for the coursework, versus in Alberta, it was a few $100s a course. But on top of that, I had one of my best friends here. It was beautiful. It doesn't really snow. It's just amazing. A different world, more peaceful, all that kind of stuff. I was in my early 20s now, I think late 19, early 20. And so I come here and I get really excited. And so I get a job at kind of Starbucks in a nutrition store, and I'm going to school. And I'm into it for a few months. And before you know it, I can't do it. I'm trying to focus. I'm trying to do everything I can. And what compelled me, what I wanted to do humanitarian work. I wanted to do a philanthropy. I wanted to do whatever it takes, whatever I could do to go and save the world, save these situations, right? Who wouldn't want to? The injustices of the world. How could we in the West live, in these huge houses with food, water, shelter, and unlimited toys and products and material? You can literally click a button on Amazon. But halfway across the world, not even, you've got people, even in our communities, homelessness right outside your doorstep, and people that don't even have shoes. Ironically, and we're going to talk about that, is there's little kids that don't know another world other than that refugee camp, literally, and they're out there playing. They're kicking balls without shoes, but they're smiling and they're laughing and they're just so happy. So think about that as we get through this series. Think about that. That's, really, really something to ponder on. So, clearly there's not a direct connection between material and happiness. And so that's what we're here to talk about a little bit. And so throughout this journey of finding myself, I decided to do a surprise visit to Edmonton. And there's a bit more there, but basically something kind of compelled me to go there. And as I was visiting, my mom just randomly, she got up in the middle of the day. It was a warm day, 30 degrees or so. She got up and she fainted. And my sister was there, and I saw what I believe was a seizure. And my mom, she loves to downplay things, of course. Doesn't want the kids to worry. And so we said, you know what, no, we're not going to risk anything. We called the ambulance. She went to the hospital. They said everything was okay. She came back, had another seizure. And then they went back, and then she was in the hospital for a few weeks. We thought we were going to lose her, but she ended up having Crohn's and some internal bleeding. It was a pretty scary time. She thought she was a goner. We thought she was a goner. By the grace of God, definitely she was saved there. And I had decided, I said, no, you know what, I need to stay. So I had to stay. By chance, now I had established that I was staying. Some of my friends kind of, and still in the car industry, just word kind of spread. And a friend just messaged me, and he said, oh, I heard you're back. I heard you're staying and stuff like that. I was contemplating going back to school, but I tried twice already, and I admitted to myself, you know what, I can't do it. So now I have this opportunity. A friend reaches out to me to come back and work at Nissan. And I think I'm 21. And I say to myself, I basically I don't know what to do. I'm lost. What's the point of life? What's the point of existence? What's going on? All I know is I had a duty. I had to be here. I had to do something in this world. I had to do something. I couldn't just sit and do nothing. I made a promise. I prayed to God. I made a promise, made an oath that, you know what, I'm going to do whatever it takes to succeed in this industry. But I promise, my commitment is that I'm going to do whatever it takes to give back. So I'm going to do what I'm good at, which is selling cars. And I had an idea, of course. I want to create a business eventually, because the car industry is a special place. A lot of it is money first, people second. And unfortunately, that's the way our world is. And we're going to talk about that a lot too. Why are we there? Why is the world like that? So my commitment was A, kick ass in this world. B, anything I do, the more successful I become, the more I'm going to give back, the more I'm going to do, so that, through my power, through money, etc., through influence, we can create a better tomorrow. And I'm not going to name names, but, of course, there's some billionaires, out there, even trillionaires, that could just use a percentage of their money and, the world could be churned upside down. But there's more than money and material to transform situations. And so that was kind of my goal, my thought process. I'm going to do whatever it takes, give back. And here I am, I'm 32. There's a lot more to my journey, and we'll talk about that as we go through the series. But essentially, here I am, I'm 32 years old. Until the age of 28, my emotions were shut off without even me knowing. It affected my relationships with friends, with colleagues, professional relationships, even though I was very successful. I had some sort of this, I was never, in my opinion, like outwardly or externally angry or emotional. I feel like I was very bubbly, charismatic, like a butterfly, fun, little, socialite. But, I had definitely developed some personalities along the way, these, what my psychologist would call these little Superman personalities where you'd hide behind because you think that you're more lovable. Also, I was unable to recognize. I was in, just any of those, the previous trauma that I talked about, the ancestral trauma, the wars, the chaos at home, my dad not able to identify his emotions, which would turn into anger, the Hulk mode, verbal, physical abuse, racism, my mother, her turtling, her freezing, all that kind of stuff, absorbing all of that. And until the age of 28, I was unable to recognize. I also wasn't able to recognize that I had PTSD. And so, throughout my childhood, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd start screaming in Arabic, and I would just fluent Arabic words that I don't even know. And I was just, that's just a thing. See, brushing under the rug, expert at that. And then when my wife Stephanie now, and God bless her soul and her patience, she would point that out to me, and she, it was her who's like, wow, you might have PTSD. I think that's a sign of PTSD, or just scream up. She calls it the finger guns. And so, I'm here all of a sudden in defense mode, unconsciously or subconsciously. What's going on? So there's a bit there. These personalities, when I would drink in person. It was like Russian roulette. A personality would come out. There's the Australian Richard and these other ones that I'd throw on this superhero cape, and I'd just go and I'd try to find like love and attention and charisma and all this stuff. And it was just wild, quite the journey. Also, my inability to understand emotions or communicate about emotions. I was just kind of stonewall, and just I'd see people cry and I'd just stonewall. And it was hard. I couldn't comprehend. But this is something that I learned that when I was frozen as a young child, because my emotions weren't validated, and it wasn't anyone's fault. It's just a fact, right? My parents as well, they never had, the ability to even think about emotions. It was just survival. It's bombs are flying. It's time to survive, right? So there's a lot there. Now I'm 32. At the age of 28, I started the journey. My wife definitely inspired me finally to just start waking up, to be able to start identifying emotions, understanding things, letting go, feeling, going back to the past, all that stuff. I had no idea. All I knew is I needed to start this journey. And at the age of 32, I can say proudly and gladly with everything in me that I am the most alive, the most awake, the most at peace I've ever been in my entire life, my entire existence. Now, keep in mind, I have a lot of people in my arsenal, doctor, PhD, that specializes in PTSD, the physical kind of stuff. I have an amazing psychologist who helps me with kind of my mind and that thought process there, and help me kind of rewire things. So it's the mind, and then I have, of course, the soul part, which is Henri McKinnon. He's he's like my Gandhi, a spiritual guide that's just taught me how to feel, how to heal, how to dig up Pandora's box, how to release all those things. And all of that's connected to energy and reality and truth and facts of what we are and what we've absorbed, and how we can heal and become, find peace and all those things. And there's more to me, of course, but if I can do it, anyone can do it. And that's another part of the intention of what we want to inspire here through these podcasts, is how can we inspire going inside and finding peace? We only have control over ourselves. So how can we master this? And, if you picture and imagine essentially the path of a Jedi, or my favorite show growing up, Dragon Ball Z, Goku, he's my hero. If everyone was like him, we'd be in the best place ever. And I think it's possible. We have this potential. Or, you can Gandhi or Martin Luther King or many other people. But every single person has a journey. Every one of these people have commonalities, superheroes, all that stuff. The power doesn't come from outside. It comes from inside. And we're at a point in this world, state of the world, where essentially we have kind of lost that balance of the outside being the answer for the inside, where in reality it's actually the inside being the answer for all things, the outside being the result of the inside. And so our intention is also to inspire this going inside and recognizing that and realizing that, hey, superpower is from inside. Superheroes all get their power from inside, right? If anyone knows the journey of Goku started off just like, without even knowing he was just, had a superpower, but he was able to work on his mind, body, and soul to become infinitely powerful. And many other people, right? How do you get there? It's through the inside. How do you find peace? It's through the inside. So the ability to choose to forgive, to understand emotions, to also for us to be able to factually, fact check. Okay, religion says this. Well, people say this with mental health. Well, what is the result of that? So let's look at that. And also to kind of just conclude my story there was my oath was to make an impact. So here's part of that, right? So I am 32 years old. Essentially, this is going to be an incredible journey. It has been for me. So I'd love to just guide through my own true experiences, my success, my ability to see the world the way I do and to be where I am. So I have a beautiful daughter, 8.5 years old, with my previous relationship, and her mother that I get along great, which is awesome. And she's just so smart and incredible. I have a family now with my son Xander and my wife Stephanie, and just it's amazing. It's incredible. We are able to just be grateful every day, wake up, be grateful, and enjoy every moment together. And it's been a journey. It's not been easy for me and her, but we both, have had our own traumas. She's a lawyer. I'm a finance, basically banker / co-founder of Sparta Finance, which is an extremely successful Amazon-style type of, finance company, loaning company, power sports, automotive, all that kind of stuff, where we deliver products, we finance them, and all that kind of stuff. So definitely a success story there for being a high school dropout. Founded Something for Humanity, which is very active monthly. We donate heavily to the local community, homelessness, mental health, Our Place. We do lots of events for the communities. And we also have an amazing team in Davao City, Philippines, Albert and the team there. Christian and Paul, they are incredible. They help edit these videos and stuff like that. They help with the YouTube channel and they help the events there. We're trying to do something monthly to create an impact. Because the intention and the goal is to, create love, and something that I've recently compelled me and pushed me to want to do these podcast series to share my story and for us to be able to dig very deep, go very deep. At the end of the day, what can we control? Nothing out there. We can't control anything out there, but we can control everything inside, and that's what we're going to talk about. I ask you to follow me in this journey. I've helped a lot of people create businesses that are successful. Our businesses are successful. My wife's law firm, Lovolution, is taking off and use the same kind of process, the same kind of philosophy with Sparta there, and lots of success. Now I'm in a very good place financially, success, mind, body, soul, all those things. So at the end of the day, I am someone who has, gone through the journey, gone through the heartaches of physical, mental abuse, being different. At this point in my lifetime, even choosing to not be vaccinated. So a bit of segregation in that situation, racism, oppression, all those things. And I can relate to all walks of life. And that's why I want to share my story and also challenge intellects. And right now, it's March 6, 2022, and we are, 10 days into, a war between Russia and Ukraine, and there's still war. Let's not forget Yemen, Syria, Iran, in those areas, Israel being, of course, fighting for its survival and its perception, and vice versa. So we're in a world where we're enduring almost 3 years of COVID-19 and in a world of heavily oppressed world where there's certain group of human beings that continuously try to control the physical world, which then creates oppression. It creates these situations where these third world countries are just suffering, children, human beings that are sleeping on the street in your backyard, essentially because homelessness is on the rise. Money and power, so-called power, I want to be very specific about that, being at the top of this pyramid, because now the world is in a state of which is being treated like a business. Everyone's seen the movie Avatar. Not. I highly recommend it. It is unbelievable. If you want to, comprehend and understand how nature takes over in the end, watch that movie. So there is, in my opinion, always light in the darkness. If you think about Star Wars, there's always light in the darkness. So in the state of the world right now, it is definitely covered in darkness in the sense of hatred, power, control, ego, lies, manipulation. The list goes on and on and on. This is not about judgment. It's about just speaking about facts. It's not about hatred. It's the opposite of hatred. It's to create love and to explain, certain things like faith, religion, truth, facts, spirit, mind, body, soul, all those things. That is the intention of the podcast, and we're going to dig deep together. We're going to challenge each other. We're going to inspire. We're going to talk about faith, religion, scripture, current events, politics, geopolitics, everything you can imagine, and why everything is happening, and challenge the self and others to be able to do that work inside, because the self is all we can control, and the self is all we can essentially choose to commit to this opportunity to become enlightened. So become, like a superhero almost. And what does that mean? It means simply becoming so infinitely powerful in the mind, body, and soul that you're able to just choose love and to choose to be kind and choose forgiveness. Because guess what? That sets you free. This is fulfillment. And once you start choosing and realizing and seeing this truth, there's nothing you can do to stop it. So this is the journey we wish to compel. And we believe that by inspiring this journey one person at a time, we can choose to free ourselves and really create change, because change comes from within. And as Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see. And as Gandhi also says, shake the earth with a gentle shaking. And so essentially, we're going to talk about that. So I invite you to follow me and my successes so that I can inspire you and others to incredible, amazing journey of the self, to find inner peace, to find love, to be able to inspire others, to create peace within your life, within your family's life, within your community's life, the work life, everything and everywhere you do, and able to also master this inner person, this inner spirit, to be able to comprehend and understand what's going on in the outside world. Sure, it can appear extremely scary that, oh my goodness, World War III, Russia, Ukraine, these people, that person, like, how it's easy to lose your mind and all that. But the truth is that there's something very divine and beautiful and majestic about all things that are happening, just like your existence. We're going to talk about that and show you how you can master the ability, the capacity to, and no matter what situation you are in, no matter who you are, where you are in the world, to master the you that is you, and to become your own superhero, to be able to just become infinitely powerful and realize, wow, I am so powerful. I have ability to control my mind, my body, my soul, and I can create my own reality, and I can essentially control what I see on the outside, and now all of this makes sense. And so we're going to talk about that. So thank you so much for getting to know me. If you would like to get to know me more, please ask questions, ask away. We're going to have a blog. We're going to keep this series going. In the next episode, it'll be the first episode of Into the Deep. So please follow me on this journey. Please follow me on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Please spread the word, because, let's work on this. What else can we do right now? Watch the world continue to grow in darkness, or can we create our own light? And that's what we're going to do. I ask for you to spread the word, and let's go on this journey together. Thank you so much. Have a lovely, incredible day, and I can't wait to join you on the next episode.